Hi, welcome to my presentation on barriers to open, unique perspectives from degree program leadership. My name is Tiffani Tijerina, and I am a PhD candidate in the Technical Communication and Rhetoric program at Texas Tech University, scheduled to defend on October 4th, so by the time you watch this, I will have finished. I'm also an instructor of technical communication at Kennesaw State University, and I have been teaching there since 2017. So this is going to be quick as it's a 10-minute lightning talk, but I hope to publish some of this research in the next year, so keep an eye out for it. This lightning talk is a very, very brief version of my dissertation study conducted in the technical communication field, but I expect that most, if not all of it, can be applied beyond our field. I chose this topic because I have been an open educator since I started as an instructional designer in 2015. And I'm passionate about expanding OER work in my field of technical communication, which has been rather slow to join us. In fact, despite TC's major turn towards social justice about 20 years ago, social justice in our curriculum has lagged and OER scholarship has been very minimal. Therefore, my exigency was focused on social justice in curriculum and how the affordances of OER offers a tool for moving it forward. To start a scholarly research agenda, the study focused on identifying barriers to OER in the field, and the results then focused on recommending actionable solutions to barriers and proposing a research agenda to expand TC OER scholarship and interest. My research questions were focused on identifying barriers to OER creation, adoption, and sustainability in undergraduate TC programs, overcoming those barriers, and then minimizing or eliminating those barriers. My participants were program administrators over undergrad TC programs. I focused on leadership rather than faculty because there is already so much research on perspectives of faculty surrounding OER work, yet there have been none that focused on leadership. Furthermore, I was looking for an idea of programmatic discourse and attitudes about OER, and I hoped that program administrators would be able to give that general perspective based on their own interactions with their faculty. Data was collected and analyzed in 3 phases via anonymous surveys of program administrators, semi-structured interviews with 6 program administrators, and content analysis of the institutional policies and procedures at each of the 6 interviewees' institutions. Phases 2 and 3 allowed me to create case studies for 6 TC programs. The study results offered 5 key barriers from the perspective of program administrators. First, differing definitions of OER. Each of my 6 institutions had different requirements for a resource to be considered an OER. For example, one institution included a requirement that OER has to be maintained and updated by an academic institution, and only 2 included a requirement that the resources be openly licensed. If administrators have different understandings of OER, they likely also have different attitudes toward what OER can do for their programs, which may in turn affect their willingness to support OER work. Institutional OER support. Support needs vary across different institutions and programs, and they were consistent with known barriers in OER scholarship. So some of the barriers that came through my study included lack of funding, lack of dedicated personnel support, lack of administrative approval, and unsupportive departmental priorities. Recognition for OER work. Tenure and promotion recognition is a known issue in OER scholarship, and my study results showed the same. Copyright and intellectual property was an interesting result. The primary copyright concerns present in OER literature are that 1, commercial publishers will take advantage of open licensing to monetize content, and 2, using or remixing OER might result in copyright infringement. However, neither of these concerns appeared in my study. Rather, the primary issue I found was that intellectual property policies at institutions are often misunderstood or simply unknown by their program administrators, and likely also faculty. The lack of knowledge for these policies presents issues primarily to the sustainability of OER work because it may call into question the reliability of OER availability as well as the validity of their licenses. And textbook adoption policies. Though it's unlikely for an institution or program to restrict the use of OER in its courses directly, it's not uncommon for institutions to require a particular textbook across all sections of a course, particularly lower level or general education courses. This kind of policy can work in favor of OER so that a particular open textbook might be mandated in a course, but it's more common for programs to require purchased textbooks that are either well established in the field or developed within the department itself. From those barriers and based on interview discussions with the program administrators in my study, I then identified 8 recommendations for potentially overcoming, minimizing, or eliminating some of the barriers identified. First, baby steps. For instructors who want to explore OER but can't dedicate the time it takes for a full adoption, I recommended having them take baby steps for replacing individual readings and chapters at a time in the course over multiple semesters. Faculty learning communities can be used to increase awareness of OER by organizing groups such that each group has 1 or 2 OER-aware facilitators, either from within the institution or even as guests from outside the institution to help start conversations. Faculty coaching to support faculty in their bids to include OER work in their tenure and promotion portfolios. One institution's program administrator talked about coaching their faculty on presenting their work in a way that appeals to different audiences at the university, focusing more on aligning OER work with program and institutional goals. Coming from a field that emphasizes audience analysis, this is an expected practice, but it's a valuable consideration for fields with less focus on audience. Funded vetting of OER materials. Some institutions may have only small amounts of funding available that isn't enough to fund larger OER projects. So one way of using a small amount of funding for a bigger impact would be to fund a single person to spend time vetting the OER materials in their field. That way the program would then have a list of vetted OER for faculty to consider as they're choosing their course textbooks. Those first four recommendations are more focused on overcoming barriers rather than changing them. However, given the opportunity, it would be even more ideal to minimize or eliminate barriers. The following 4 recommendations are more to that effect. Develop guidelines for OER in tenure and promotion. As some states and institutions have already done, I recommended using the guidelines from the Doers 3 group to help ensure that OER work counts for tenure and promotion. Pursue grant funding. As we in the open education community are well aware, grant funding is available at the institution, state, federal, and even otherwise national or international levels. So if our institutions and programs aren't dedicating funding to supporting OER work, we should pursue it in any capacity that is available to us. Develop shared resources. Shared resources that are designed for specific programs offer an easy avenue for instructors who are interested in adopting OER but who don't have the time to develop or revise a whole course around them. One of my institutional case studies was already doing this, and another suggested it as a potential solution. I've also seen it in my own teaching institution. And finally, start coalitions for OER in field-specific professional organizations. So each field has professional organizations that experts join for various reasons, such as professional development and networking. And often those organizations have special interest groups or subcommittees. If we encourage OER subcommittees dedicated to things like funding, recognition, and support for OER work, it would offer another avenue for expanding OER work in each field. And that is the very, very condensed version of my dissertation. I'd like to thank my dissertation committee, Dr. Steve Holmes, Dr. Jason Tom, and Dr. Tamara Powell, and I'd also like to thank the Open Education Research Fellows Program for their support of this study. Once again, my name is Tiffani Tijerina, and thank you for watching my lightning talk.